Hey gang, it's Casual Friday, and that means it's Medium Nancy Matz Friday, and today's topic is who's standing next to you? We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing? Winding down from the work week, right? My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento. We are 45 strong up and down the state of California, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. It might take us a while, but we can get to you. California is a big state. In the case that we can't get to you, we do have mediums on staff who can phone you, talk to you about what may or may not be going on in your neck of the woods, and if it is something paranormal, they can calm down the energy, well, pretty much calm down the energy till we can get out there in a lot of the cases. So, welcome to the show. That being said, if you're watching from Facebook today, and a lot of you are, and you haven't done so already, please hit that follow button. Always looking for followers, and please share the show if you like to see. You know, if you see and like what you, well, the show today. Be sure to share it. If there's somebody in the house, or you have a friend that might be interested in this stuff, hey, feel free. That's why at the very end, right, I always tell you, share it with 5 people, share it with your enemies. We're just trying to get the word out. If you are watching from Facebook, and a lot of you are, like I said, please hit that follow button. And not only that, be sure to chat in the chat room. I see Michelle's already in the chat room. Hello, Michelle. Be sure to chat in the chat room and also show us some love. Leave us a thumbs up, happy hearts, which I can't. Well, I've been trying to do that like for 2 years now. But yeah, leave us a comment. That's because what that does is Facebook's computers are designed to look for that stuff, and that puts us up higher in the Facebook computer system, and that puts us in what they call the FYP, which is the For You page. And the For You page is you'll see that as you scroll down Facebook, you come across the reels, and then below that are suggestions, like for people or different pages. That's what that's about. That's your FYP For You page. Okay, it works the same way over at YouTube, except with YouTube you have to at least put the comments in. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We're getting closer. We're down to 97 more subscribers to hit that magic 1,000 mark. Exciting stuff. So if you haven't subscribed already at YouTube, please feel free to do that as well. I'd really appreciate it. And again, hit us up with some comments tonight. Happy faces, to let us know how you like it. Join the conversation, right? And Twitch works pretty much the same way. In fact, all the social media pretty much works the same way, except TikTok, where in order to hit that like button, you have to double tap the screen. But we're not even on TikTok tonight, so that doesn't matter. All right. Welcome to the show tonight. It's Casual Friday, and that means Nancy Matz is with us, so we should have a great, fun night talking with Nancy. And I just want to alert everybody, I will officially have the Patreon stuff up on Monday for the new editions. For those of you who have signed up on the Patreon already, nothing's going to change. It's going to be 18.5 cents a day to be a member of this Patreon. But what's going to change is some of the benefits I'm going to be adding on. Not taking away, but adding on. So I think there's going to be some really cool things coming up, including special Saturday night shows where we are going to tell ghost stories. It's going to be like a fireside chat to tell ghost stories. And Nancy and I were throwing names around earlier today. Where are we at? Hang on. Let me push my buttons. I should have done this before the show, but you guys know how I am. I'm going to call it Ghost Stories in the Dark. And so I would like you guys, as my listeners, and that goes for the RSS feed, everybody across the world, to email me some ghost stories at caesarsghost@yahoo.com. CESARSGHOST@yahoo.com. Because I'm going to tell your ghost stories. I don't necessarily have to use your name. I just need the stories, right? But I want to tell your ghost stories, especially if you are a first responder. police officer or EMT. I want to tell those ghost stories. But we're going to sit around in the dark on Saturdays, and I want to be able to fish. So at least twice a month on Saturdays, we're going to sit around in the dark, and we're going to tell ghost stories. So that's one of the perks that's coming in for Patreon, and I might even open that up to the regular listening audience. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, that being said, I'm going to shut up now. Nancy is in the green room, chomping at the bit to come in and say hello. So let's get this show on the road, and let's find out who's standing next to me. Here we go. Or you, or your friends.
Well, I did spend some hours, not hours. I got a funny, that's not my hair, we're sticking out. It's my design in the back. People don't realize my hair grows so fast. That's that Indian lucky, I guess. Every week you'll look different. I do want to shout out to a couple of people I talked to today, Scott and Nancy, Central Time Zones. It's fun to hear from people, and look forward to Nancy first thing in the morning and Scott this afternoon. Seems like I hope I don't. There was other people I talked to, but I wanted to start out the show, and I invite people to come into the chat room to ask Shar. I did see Michelle had to step out real quick. Hopefully she is there. Okay. Shar will be answering your questions. I can't see and do the chat room while looking at the camera. I wanted to start. No, Shar, if you get a phone call or someone comes into the chat room, absolutely, I will describe by visual and a message if I get any of somebody who's standing next to you. I remember last time we did this, been 3 or 4 months. On the time before that, it could have been the time before that, and I was picking up somebody who came to me during the show, or right before the show, and I brought it up, and she said that at the time of her death, her body had been damaged, and she wanted her person, and she didn't say man or woman, her relative, to stop thinking of her that way. And this is really hard, because if you focus on your relative, whether you see them at the crime scene well, you probably wouldn't, but at an accident scene, or you find out they died with damage to the body. A few of them I've had propellers off a boat, young men that were blown up overseas, and the people that were this couple people, they were visualizing them that way. And that's very distressing for a spirit person. First off, you're really grieving, and you only think of them that way, but you have established their new identity in the spirit life. They can't go on unless you release that grief. And it's really hard for me to explain to people in the throes of grief. So many ways we can die. And a lot of near-death experiences will talk to me. I died on the operating table. What about a relative watching or knowing that you're laying there and something's gone wrong during surgery? You may remember them that way. They don't want to be remembered that way. They want to be remembered at the highlight of their life usually. And the young man that got blown up, he said, have her think of me at breakfast. And he showed me the tables at a cafeteria look before the military pupils would get in their jeeps and take off, and then they would have these terrible, terrible bombs go off. And the young lady walked in. This was when I was in Sierra Vista. She walked in. I had a shop in Tombstone, Arizona for a whole year. It was very fun. We could do a show just on that. And she walked in, and the spirit man walked next. I went, oh, shoot. I tried not to get too, wow, look at this one. He looks different. I went, wow, because his body was together, but it was all laid out with red lines all over the place. And she was the one in the Jeep behind him. So when it blew up and they were scrambling, she was picking up his body parts. So she was absolutely traumatized. And he said, think of me at breakfast. And she goes, how did you know? He showed me breakfast at the cafeteria tables. And he wants you to think of him that way. And I saw her looking at the ceiling, and she started thinking about it. I could almost see in her eyes that she was giving thought to this. And as she was doing that, the energy shifted on him, and the red lines indicating where he had been blown up were now disappearing. Oh, goosebumps, everybody. Oh, goosebump time. And it was kind of emotional for me. I try not to get emotional, but human beings, their lives are so amazing. And I've
Mhm.
been able to, during the process of a session, disassociate my energy, my emotion with what you're going through. But I'm a very emotional person, and I see something like that. I go, oh my gosh. I tell stories. I got things to talk about here, and all of them have a meaning for me and a remembrance. So I want
Mhm.
to go on until someone, Shara, stops me. I have a whole list of things to talk about tonight. I don't know if we'll go next week with some of these, but it's important. Uh, so I connected. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A lady was doing MP3s in her home, and she got a digital camera out, and I think she had her phone as a recorder, but she also had a 10. Did I talk to you, Shar, about this lady?
No, this is
Did
new.
I, Shar?
This is
Okay.
new for me. Yeah.
She she wanted to, huh?
No, it's new for me.
What?
Go ahead. I've never heard this.
Okay. So
Sorry.
okay, so yeah, right. So
Okay,
what
really, we
happened
are,
was
darling.
I saw a video of a lady who's doing this, and it just happened that and I can see her now talking to me. She had middle aged, and she had one of those overshirts and skirt that matched, like a root beer color. And she was
Hmm.
talking to me about how she was using, I think it was a digital recorder in her home, making recordings of the spirit people. And she had been widowed, and he did show up. And I was kind of like in amazement. I didn't know what to say to her. Was she calling me for approval? Of course you can do this. On this flip side, I just recently talked to a gentleman a few days ago, and he'd been doing EVPs, I call it MP3s, EVPs in his home. And I want to be gentle with this. He's a very religious man. And after a while, he was then getting baddies, and he was and his house is getting full of those spirits that want to be acknowledged or play the game that you're creating. Now, be careful how I word that. Okay, so in his world, he was doing EVPs. Wow, it was fun. And he lives in the part of the world where there's a lot of spirit peoples.
Hmm.
And if you talk to them, the ones you have in your home, the ones that are floating around without connections, they're kind of like decades old, and they're just floating around. They're not very emotionally healthy. They haven't connected to whom they're looking for, and they got hold of him. They saw him. On the flip side of that, also, where you have your home can also be a deterrent or an encouragement for you to do these. Like his house is on a hill, but he has water going under the ground. So the
Hmm.
water current is electrical force, and they're
Hmm.
attracted to that too. So if you're doing EVPs, you're talking spirit people, they go, oh, wait a minute, there's communication here somewhere. I want to be part of it. And if you're in the mood, you're looking for those people in your culture or your religious group that is the spooky and the wow factor. They're going to pretend to be that for you. So I will always give caution um, to how you believe in spirit kind. If I come across a spirit that is um, leans toward wanting to scare me or wants to frighten people, they're emotionally unhealthy. They've been in spirit too long and they not resolve their unfinished business, or they're seeking for attention and they don't want to go on because they did something they shouldn't have. So many
Hmm.
reasons, everybody. It's just amazing to me. Or they're looking for a relative, all kinds of reasons. After a while, they kind of, and then I have to sometimes just say, well, who are you? What's your name? You get conversation, a little conversation, and you pull them out of that spot of disharmony. Oh, you want to know my name? What was my name? What was it? And all of a sudden they're trying to think of their name. I said, what are you doing here? Oh, she's asked me what I'm doing here. Well, I'm pretending to be, and I said, don't do that. We're not looking for you. Sometimes you have to be firm but consistent. Don't raise your voice. Be real calm. Find out who it is. Now, where I live, that person did die here. And when she showed up, she bumped right into me. Who are you? And what are you doing in my house? I says, wait a minute, this is my house now. I had that push, and I thought to myself, well, she has a lot of nerve and she's bossy. And I said, listen, this is my house now. And she was quite a character. She was in real estate and she painted the inside of this. We have almost a 1968 square foot house. Each quadrant of the house was painted in what we call the 8 crayon prime colors. Think of that for a moment, everybody. Real red, real green, real blue, real purple, real black. It was crazy. Well, I don't think she had black, but the outside of the house is plum. Inside the house has plum red, and I can't live like that. I'm very peaceful, like the back of here. Each room is very peaceful. So I told her, I says, I'm paying it. I'm going to take care of the house, and you can just move on. So I talked to management of this complex, and she says, "Oh my God, that's right. She was just like that." Well, she didn't come back. That I can tell. But the people who owned it before her, she was here 23 years. People before her put this place here, and the gentleman never left because he was the manager of this complex, and he had guns in the closet. And every once in a while, he's the one I talked to you about. That's so interesting to my husband because my husband watches all the man shows, right now, Friday Night Fights and wrestling. And the guy came and sat on the couch with my husband. And Larry just looked at him and goes, "Oh." And then he calls me up and says, "We have a ghost in here." I said, "Well, tell me about it." He says, "Well, I've been seeing his footprints." Now he's sat down. What do you think if I offered him a drink? My husband has a drink a week, and it's Friday nights, and he fixes it. And so at either end, he has a coffee table, and he offered him a drink. He could see the guy sit down. Of course, he can't drink. And I thought to myself, there's true companionship. That is a true relationship. We don't have to be scared of these people. These are people and their egos, and they are can be very nice. He was a boss. He was bossy. You stood around this tall guy, lanky, long-legged, and I see his legs walking through here once in a while, and he's visualizing his world and his time frame. So getting back to EVPs, what if I set it up to talk to him? And it occurred to me, I wouldn't know what to say because I wouldn't tell him it's time for you to leave because he's enjoying this place. And he's not bothering me. Though one day I was coming through, I was going to go to the front door and I stood right there at, where I'm going. The front door is about 8, 10 feet away and the front door opens. I go, "Were you leaving or were you opening it for me?" It scared me a little bit, but it startled me. I don't get scared very easily. So I want to caution you. I will speak to other ways. Um, so I want to say to you a state of mind when dealing with spirits and ghost peoples. Ghost peoples are those who are unfinished, not stable, possibly mentally ill. You'll find them in their environment of where they went insane, more likely. They're not so apt to just roam around and scare us like some of the spooky movies out there. They will go to their comfort zone, whether it was a mental hospital or the house where they died in. Heaven forbid, I've heard of stories of movies where somebody crazy has died in house after killing people. And I think, well, it depends on their motive. If they were truly insane, I hope he's gone. And that's why sometimes we get called. But it's their state of mind, not yours. Because you can ignore them and they get, well. And so, don't hear this wrong, everybody. I've actually dealing with somebody, I'm not going to say his name, on the East Coast, and everybody's ignored this man, the spirit person. And so he's standing in a closet upstairs. Just after you get up the steps to the second balcony, he's in a closet to the left. Excuse me, I remote view, so I know where. How this, in fact, it's really beautiful. Hole in this arch, stairs going up. So no one paid attention to him. And so what he did, he just backed into a closet. They don't necessarily rattle chains. If they don't get the attention, they'll just disappear. They'll go into a closet. And so what happens, they kind of, after a while, just turn into a mesh. And I was telling you how somebody was doing I don't remember, it was back east, a mental hospital. I don't know if Char remembers, and the gentleman, it was Port Orange Paranormal, George Lopez. And I was telling him where to go. And so I walked into this room, it's 3 steps. I said, take a right turn there. And then if you turn one more time, There's a blob on the ceiling. That was an insane person at one time. They just kind of clap in on themselves. Very, very hard to get them to pass on. And a lot of times you do EVPs and they're so disconnected to everything that you'll just get mumblings. They're not going to reach out. They don't know. They've forgotten. A lot of times when people go insane because of a child's death in a cemetery, or they've been there so long that they forgot their shape, I'll just see a big blob mound on the ground. It's not so much they gone insane, but the grief almost drove them to insanity. And then because they don't move and they don't know how to get over the grief, they just lose what they used to look like. And they look like a blob to me. It's very hard to get conversation, but you may hear things like, all three of my babies are buried here. That was something I've talked to in the past. This woman couldn't get over the fact that she lost all her children as infants. So, and sometimes that's really important. Now, what's curious is also how many farms have been built over. How Poltergeist, the first one. How many subdivisions have been built? How many freeways over grave sites? Or turmoil from a massacre. I lived up at Black Mountain, Hornbook, California. And one day my husband says to me, I go, what? He says, I just saw a little girl with a white hat on walking by. I go, you did? Yeah. And I'm going to believe him. You can't be married to me for last May was 21 years. You can't be married to me without really tuning in. This is only like 6-7 years ago. And so I said, okay, let me find her. And about 2 or 3 days later, she walked by and I could see her. And I said, that's odd. I don't remember someone dying on the mountain. How would I know? So we did some research, and there had been a massacre going to Siskiyou Mountain Range from Wairika to Medford, middle to late 1800s. A whole family was murdered. We did find their tombstones in a cemetery, and one of them was a little girl. I can't remember the age, 11, 12, 13. So I'm going to, Shar and I talked today of kind of changing the pattern of the show. We would need your encouragement of investigating cemeteries and seeing who I could pick up and then do some research and do a follow-up. Because I see them first and then, or hear them. I did one cemetery tour and the guy was running and yelling at me, tell them it wasn't suicide. And I told the lady in charge of the Rockland Cemetery, I told her what I said, not knowing that his mother was standing behind me. And he said it was raining. I slid and the car went into the ditch and I died. So it was the middle of June when this happened. Well, guess what? The one night in June it rained was the night he was killed in the car. No one knew that. So I gave the family peace. And that's what this sometimes is about, is what am I picking up? I'm only me. And I tell people a lot of times I'm a validator. I'm your anchor. I'm somebody that tells you what really happened or my impression. It's up to you to research, but I can't make anything up. Maybe I misinterpret sometimes, but I'm the one that helps you put your feet back on the ground so you can finish your life. And that goes with dating also. I just had recently someone ask me, he's getting into dating somebody, and there was an aspect of the lady, and I said what I said. And he says, oh, I'm aware that's a health issue. And then I went and complimented her to Dickens. I said, she had the most bubbly personality. There was such a genuine lightness about her. And then I said, I give you my blessing. It's not for me to put a kibosh on anybody. It's for me to give the caution for you to work it out. I would never tell somebody, I may give caution all day long, but if you're in love with somebody, you got to work it out. So anyway, getting back to, is Michelle in the room yet? Did she want me to talk to her?
Yes, Michelle would like you. Michelle would like to know.
I don't know. She was pretty busy.
Michelle would like to know who's standing next to her. Excuse me.
Well, I just got, her name just popped into my head again. Michelle, just give me, it's kind of fun to find out where people live. I think she's in Northern California, right? Is she?
I think so,
yeah. Michelle
yes.
E.
Michelle says yes.
I don't know. Give me. Am I missing out on this here? Oh, Hello, I just put to Winchester Mansion. It was insane. I think a guy got possessed. Whoa. I got a few people in here. Oh, Michelle,
Mhm.
you have the sweetest little grandma. You have two ladies there. One was the sweetest little grandma. She looks like if you're 5'4", then she's 5'1". She never got really very big. She tells me she died of an overall disease, blood or cardiovascular something, possibly heart attack, cholesterol. She did gain some weight. She had thicker thighs. I think she might have had, at the end of her life, the trouble with generations back, you probably could find a picture of her. She shows me her legs being molted up a little bit. I don't know if I'm looking at varicose veins or is it some kind of circulatory problem, but she wants me to think that. Where are you, dear? Uh, Sometimes it's fun if I could hear the voice. Michelle, do you have any idea who she is? Type me a little note. Looks like she was darker versus a blonde. Now, the gray haired lady that showed up earlier, kind of refined looking, possibly your height. She did go gray. She was a strong face, but she loved to make cookies. And she spent time in the kitchen. Uh, uh, Shar, there's another one. Read that,
I
would
see
you?
it. I'm
A lot
here.
of
I'm
something
watching.
wrote in a lot. I think that's for you, sweetie. Um, and so this lady did get thinner. It's almost like two sides of the family. They look totally different to me. But she says, I really like to cookies. And she shows me like cookies. Michelle, can you answer that, hon? SEUN 876. Uh,
Could be her
so your
I think
father,
paternal grandmother.
okay, so Michelle,
Not
which
sure.
grandmother? The one with the, yeah, tell me which one did I describe? Because the light haired lady showed up first. And then when I tapped into, I see another lady walking up. And they, people could have parents, you know, my father was a blue eyed blonde, and look at me. So
Hmm.
there you are. So I take after my grandmother's side of the family. Michelle, just tell me which description did I describe? So another man has shown up. You got quite a few. Did you ask for a lot of people to show up? He has dark hair
She
with the
says the
heavy
lady with the
legs.
heavier
Okay.
legs. Yeah.
Yeah, she showed up. I did I describe how she died? Do you know anything else about her? Let me know. That's kind of interesting. The other lady showed up with cookies, and I thought that was odd. And I think she was of more recent time. She does show me 1930s, 1940s shoes, a white dress almost halfway between her knee and her ankle. So she was of a different era. Um, why does she want me to think about these cookies with raisins in them, a platter? I don't know. So she better speak up. Old age dementia. Old age. I don't know. I don't know how that relates to this. But it was the dad's mother I was describing. Okay. And the other lady, do you recognize her with the cookies? I would say she's going back to the 70s. So your dad's mom, this might be your mother's side of the family. Give it a thought. Um, the uh, the heavy lady. What's your message, honey? She says she stayed in her head too much. She thought too much. Don't get so deep in your thoughts. That doesn't make any sense to me either. Not much. You just want to be recognized, both of them. The man that came in was a nice looking man, military looking, dark hair. He shows me how he wishes to be remembered. Very handsome build, very nice. He just walked in, little bigger head, dark hair. Um, I have no idea when he died. Show me your eyes, hon. Show me your eyes. It could have been Hazel. He might have been hazel to light brown or medium brown. Let me know if you know who that is. Okay, Michelle. Um,
Take your time, Michelle. It's all good. Take your
yeah.
time.
And then I
We
want to
should
go
see
up to
what.
Angela.
Yes.
Recognize the last name. We talked before? Would be fun. You have two ghosts in your house, both male. Um, I don't know if yes or no. I'm getting a man that shows. Oh, I'm sorry about the computer here. I'm seeing one that's a shorter, older man. I don't know if it's who you're seeing. He's medium boned, um, strong looking face, sense of humor. He may be one of them. He says, I make noise in the house. I don't know if he walks or he just is sitting down. I can't tell. You sitting down or are you walking around and you're just short? Angela, let me know who I'm looking at, huh? I
And
like I
Michelle
like spirit people. Go ahead.
and Michelle says it sounds a bit like her dad.
Okay. And I don't know how old your dad was when he passed, but this man is younger looking. Sometimes when I find a description like this, it's because as an older person, uh, just a minute, Angela. It's because at the end of life, they didn't like what they saw or didn't like how they were. So sometimes we will go back to the age when they think, and people say, "What about me?" And well, I don't know, but gee, I looked really good at 29. It
Kind
was
of like
like
my
good
filter,
years.
kind of like my filters on TikTok. Yeah.
Oh, is there filters? I don't know about here.
My bold glamour
What do I?
filters, yeah.
Okay, so hold on, Angela. So you know who I'm talking about? He has scared all my daughters. Yeah, he's a prankster. He's not somebody that's insane or anything. He likes to go poof, in the middle of the night or something, making noise. I would like you to stand up to him and not be a bully, but be, I know who you are. I know why you're here. You don't have any business scaring my family because I'm not scared of you anymore. Angela, can you do that for me, hon? And who is he? Since you know who I'm talking about, is he related to you, or was he part of the house when you moved in? Let me know. I'll be interested.
And Michelle
Um,
says yes, her dad would feel like that. So that's cool. Okay.
okay. Yeah. All right. So Michelle, that's your dad. He wasn't the first person I saw. The lady with the cookies were, and then the heavy lady showed up, and between the heavy lady and the lady with white lighter hair, the man showed up. So you have three people showing up at different times, but they all came tonight. Did you ask them to show
Michelle,
up?
Michelle has a full house.
She does. Yeah,
She
yeah.
does. Yeah, Michelle. Angela
And Angela
says,
has a
yeah.
and part of house. Oh, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Part of house. Oh, so when you moved in, was he
Hmm.
already there? And did you remodel? Is that what it is? And he was part of the old part of the house? He is a prankster. He is, I would say that when he was alive, people say, well, he's a crunchy old man, but not necessarily now. I think he likes things stirred up. So, Angela, my best thing I could speak to is I don't know how old your girls are. I'm looking at her name thinking she can hear me. Tell the kids, this
Oh,
is a
you're
person
remodeling.
without the,
Oh, yeah. Remodeling
oh,
would stir that stuff up. Oh, hell yeah.
oh yeah, that does. So
Absolutely.
you changed his world, and he's going, what is going on? So I don't feel he's a bad man. I feel like he's a curmudgeon when he was alive, and he's stirring things up because whatever. I mean, get over it, guy. I would make your girls realize that this is a crunchy old man and he doesn't deserve to scare you. You're living, he is not. He had a body, now he needs to leave. And you're just going to ignore him. So ignore him. Make his world not inviting to him. And I don't know if he'll move on. Seems like he had a chair or he had a place where he was sitting a lot. And I may be seeing him sitting down. So you're disrupted his corner. Be curious what you know about what that means, remodeling. Or did you do a front room where there was a big chair where the guy sat in it? Ah,
Oh, they saged. Okay, you saged?
yeah.
Okay. We
Pardon me, what'd
saged.
you say?
She says we saged.
I don't know what that means.
To
Spirit
calm
people
down the
can't
energy. To
smell.
calm down the ghost. Yeah, for saged. So.
Okay, so what that tells me is that he's still doing it, so he can't smell. But what you did was you empowered you. Okay, we're going to do this to help get rid of you. Now I want you to pick it up and say, okay, you didn't move. I want you to talk to him like you don't want him in the house. You are not welcome here. These are people. Would you let this guy walk in the front door and just go boo 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 to you and try to scare your daughters? You get a big old frying pan out. Get the frying pan out. Get it out and hold it and say, you bother my kids, I'm going to be swinging this thing all through the house. And mean it. That's all. That's all there is. We get scared of these people. They're only people. I wouldn't let this guy in my front door.
I'm telling you,
Oh,
Angela, all the years I've been doing this, and my neighbors know me very well now. If I bring something home with me that or I know there's something here that's not supposed to be here, I will open all my windows and doors and yell at the top of my lungs to get them out. And the neighbors think it's
Yeah.
funny. He's not that bad. Well, that's cool. He's just
You can be like the
sometimes
lady who. Go ahead.
sometimes you can live with your ghost too. There's no
Well, I'm
issue.
living with some ghosts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just scroll through this really quick. I just saw somebody else say, Winchester Mansion. Yes, there are ghosties there.
You know what's interesting
Absolutely. I
about
think
the
there's 3.
Winchester Mansion is when I went through a few years ago. It's been a while, but to me, the Winchester Mansion felt like a mortuary feels.
She
When you
was
go
in
into
perpetual grief, and grief
yeah,
taints the walls, taints your person. It's almost like dark leopard spots on the body. She was
yeah,
very grieving, very grieving. But I do see a couple of what we call the work peoples that stayed
right,
there. One is a house servant, and then 2 people that were workers. That doesn't mean that people couldn't have brought other spirits there.
right.
So somebody who went there asked me to remote before they went down there. It's been 10, 15 years. And I
I
really
think
don't know. Go ahead.
hello, creme brulee. I think it was my
What?
good friend Lori Young that did a event there one time, and they were down in the basement. It was
Oh,
during her event, is where because there's a famous photo that's out there about um of a handprint where they thought, well, is it a demon print or not? I do believe, and my friend's no longer with us, but I do believe that it was during her event that she was holding there with her ghost team when that print showed up down in the basement.
ooh, ooh, I would love to have that, tap into that. Um, your statement here is crazy. I think a guy got possessed. I can't address that. I don't know. Can a spirit step into somebody and take over? Why not? I
Yeah.
mean, who am I to say no, that can't happen?
Well, the
Anything
Winchester,
can happen. It's a
a
matter of
lot was
them
going
staying is
on.
the problem.
A lot was going on with Sarah Winchester too. I mean, with her background, and all the
Mm.
people that were killed by that rifle.
All her grief.
Hmm.
Well, that spiritualist told her she has to continue building, or the spirits of the ones that got killed. And the Winchester movie was made loosely based on that theory.
Hmm.
That, and I can't remember a woman who was the English actress that had that role. Anyway, the Winchester, the movie came out 4 or 5 years back. I encourage everybody to see it. It was pretty good, of all the spirits that were in the building. My feeling is she dealt with the grief of her death of her child and her husband by keeping busy.
Hmm.
And I think that
Hmm.
almost drove her. My feeling, I saw a picture of her and kind of went there, is that she just never got over it. She wore black all her adult life, which
Well,
is
that
hard.
too, but
I can imagine.
I still think, a lot of what happened there too was, like I said, there were a lot of Native Americans killed by that rifle, and vice versa.
And
You
vice
know, dur-
versa. Yeah.
during that time, and I think that had, the like I've talked about Native American spirits before. There's nothing wrong with them, but they are very possessive of their land and and of their stuff, and so I can see how maybe there was a little harassment going on, from the afterlife.
For any situation, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
who am I to say that doesn't happen? Of course it happens.
Right.
Um, my I'm trying to remember if I say this, I don't want to get in trouble with my grandmother showing up.
Yeah,
My
you got to be careful
grandmother's
about
people,
phrasing all that stuff.
my,
Yeah.
my grandmother's people uh, migrated from New York, and I don't know if it was a trail of tears, but a lot of interesting, unfortunate situations. Grandma
Hmm.
Blanche, her 2 oldest brothers, she was a midlife child, were 100% Indian. Her mother had married a white man, and so she was half, I'm quarter, I guess. But I take after that side of the family. When I was younger, it was very dark. Before I broke my nose, I had a real Indian-looking nose, which unfortunately got broke. But um, when he
Wow.
died, the oldest brother, he's buried in USC Marysville area because they're they were shot during the recession, the not recession, the 1929 crash. They were worked for farms, and on death certificate they put on him horse thief because as a young man, he and his brother were thrown in jail for stealing horses, and they were the Indians. So naturally, they're going to throw him in jail, whether guilty or not. But I found it curious that that was a side note on his death certificate. I thought that doesn't seem right, but that's how shows you the prejudices. If you
Speaking of
died in the
karma,
40s, what's
the
that?
reason why I said wow was Angela. That is that's a karmic thing tonight. Angela
What's he
says,
talking
"Weird,
about?
I'm here tonight. Sarah Winchester was my ex-husband's great aunt, and we talked
Oh,
about him before." Yep. Wow, that is crazy.
I just love this
That's
stuff.
that's how karma works. That's something. Excuse
Synchronous
me.
and synchronous and coincidences, no such thing.
Yep.
The things have happened in my life to get me to where I am
Wow.
today.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Angela. Is that yes? I love these things.
You know what might be a fun
Lisa,
show to do? Maybe we should do something on the Winchester Mystery House.
I haven't been there in 30, 40 years. I couldn't speak to it at all
Yeah, but
unless
if I
you
put a
call
photo
people
out,
call in.
if I put a photo of it there, just like we do on a
I
regular
could probably see the
investigation.
same people I've seen all these years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what time it is. Let me continue here.
Okay. All right. Please
So
continue.
state
Yeah.
of mind when doing the EVPs. What's that?
I'm here. I'm just. And now I got
Anyway,
this in my head. I think it would be fun to do a Winchester
okay,
Mystery
we'll
House
talk
thing.
about it.
Yeah. Go ahead. We'll talk about it.
Um, so when you do
Oh.
EVPs in a cemetery, a building, location that has spirit people, you want to be calm. You want to be real square, meaning soft to yourself, understanding these people have had a life, they have a story, they're lonely, they want attention. You have to go there, but they are
Mm-hmm.
people. If you let them in the front door, if they whatever, would you let these people in your home? You make sure you leave them at the cemetery.
Yes.
Would you do it in your home? I don't know. I'm kind of like so doing it in a cemetery. I've been kind of watching the cemetery uh, videos. They're kind of fun. Finding celebrities, finding stories, finding one today. I didn't send the shard, but it was what people put on their headstones. Some like one I've seen a billion times. I told you I was sick. Like okay.
Mm-hmm.
So EVPs in the cemetery doesn't mean you're talking to the ones in the ground. Rarely do people stand on the ground. But what happens is you're showing interest in their plot or their cemetery quadrant. And a lot of times they'll feel that connection to their own body.
Excuse me.
So when I was doing cemetery tours with John Betancourt, old Sacramento City Cemetery, 13th and 8th Street, um, there was a senator, somebody who was standing in the hill where they were buried, the celebrities of their time, so to speak. And he was standing, he says to John, he says, through me, my wife's buried here. And I told John that, and he goes, wait a minute, there's no women buried there. This is just for the men, because men had the rights and everything, Oh, you're a
Mm-hmm.
celebrity, you're in Congress or something. You're not going to be buried with your wife. I go, I get what I get. And he got up there. He was like, I'm going to prove her wrong finally. I did 6 years worth. So I was good enough, right? He got
Hey,
up
you know
there, and
what?
sure enough, his wife was buried right next to him. He says, I'll be gosh darn Nancy. There's a woman buried here. And these are all all people of the legislative
Right.
assembly of Sacramento, California in the 1800s. And here's a
Yeah, but
woman
you know
buried
what?
there.
You know what? Your statement about well, anyway, remember the guy on the telephone pole or the light pole? The guy that liked to
Yes. Yeah.
sit way up and watch everybody pass by.
You're right.
That was crazy. I even got a photo of a blurry spot there. For
Well, this
infrared.
guy named Peter or Pete took a picture
Yeah.
of it for me also. They sense that we're in their area. Now, if they've come back, because I do believe reincarnation was a hard pill for me to take. And I finally, like 10 years ago, got something's really
Mhm.
happening here because too many clients were talking about their children not wanting to call them mom. Anyway, so if they're still in spirit, if they're in a way they're connected to this is where I'm buried, if they
Right.
sense people are there, they will show back up. They don't stand there hoping someone will show up. I mean, they have something better to do, except for the ones
I've
that are
got a
grieving.
video that I can share with you guys. I'm going to have to dig it out of my archives of the up in Placerville. There's this restaurant which is kind of used for events now. It's an event center called the Sequoia, and we were doing an investigation with Channel 10, and so we were in the bathroom, and we were in
In the
contact with this.
bathroom.
That's why I don't do paranormal bathrooms. We were in contact with this woman who said she had worked at the Sequoia back in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the brilliant idea and asked her, and I said, how about this? Because I was talking to Karen was there. Karen was doing the basic communication. I had the dowsing rods. So I said, how about this? How about after I turn, after we stop here? Oh, yeah. And she claimed, I'm sorry, let me put in addition to this. She claimed to be buried because there's a cemetery directly across from where the Sequoia is. On the toilet, yeah. And so then I got the brilliant idea because since we were filming anyway, and I thought, okay, let's do this. Would you be willing once we leave here? Would you be willing to show me where you're buried?
Oh.
And they crossed yes, and so we cleaned everything up, went outside, went across the way. I had the dowsing rods and the cameras rolling, and I said, okay, are you here? The dowsing rods crossed yes. So I let the dowsing rods lead me through the cemetery to this grave.
Uh-huh.
And I got the name and everything off the grave. Went back in to talk to the manager at that time, and he verified that this woman had worked there in the 1800s.
I love that.
But she had
I
led
have
me,
a lot of good stories. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
But she had led
Just
me
from the
from the
Sacramento
Sequoia
City.
literally through the cemetery to her existing grave, which was really cool.
Oh, love it. Love it.
When I visit my family, I always get
You
lost.
can get good validation.
Yeah.
I have too many stories. We have to do a night just on stories. Um, so anyway, ghost peoples, spirit peoples, mostly they're ghost peoples. Spirit
Mm-hmm.
people, or not ghosties. Ghosties are people who are mentally, or they're just not. They've been in spirit too long. All kinds of issues. Spirit people are sane and they visit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the man that lives here is not a ghost. He's a spirit because he's living in time in the world that he lived in. So he sees everything just like it was then, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think about it, but that's what it is. So we talk about EVPs and a cemetery. Char, let me know if anybody puts more questions. Ghosts are pleasers, not spirit people, ghosts, and they will be anybody you wish them to be. So be careful that when you sense a spirit people around, you go, oh, it's a demon. It's somebody here to hurt me. They're going to say, oh, you want me to do that? Oh, we get to have fun. We're going to play with this. So you have things like poltergeists. You have poltergeists all over the house because someone goes, this is terrible. I'm awful. They'll go, oh, you want me to throw some? I can do that. Boom. They'll suck up all your life force. You're tired all the time because they want to play. They go, I'm going to get attention. Yay. Just like this crappy old guy.
Or you run into a nasty, or you run into somebody that has an attitude anyway. Like I ran into in this one house, and he was acting like a demon, even though he wasn't a demon, but he was doing it to scare the people so they'd move out of the house. And we caught him red.
Absolutely.
We caught him red-handed with his ghost toasties.
I love that. So that's what I'm saying. Now you say, well, Nancy, how don't you believe in demons? I think that spirits that become ghosts, they go so insane, they can become whatever you think of them that you are. If you want a demon, they'll be grateful. Can they possess somebody and make that person insane like all the movies? I kind of wonder. I can't address that. I've been doing this for 33 years. You would think by now a demon would have got to me. I've had attachments. Remember last couple weeks ago, I talked about my trip to Boston Commons and the Dutch girl that attached herself to me. Are you my mom? I'm so lonely. No. I have never had. Now, I have to say, I'm actually a minister. I studied the old-fashioned way for years, and I got my ministry. Reverend Judy Fisher, and she was part of the Nationalist Spirits Association of America, and her group, not Universal Christ of the Master, West Coast, but the East Coast. I'm going to get this wrong because is this huge title. Church of the Living God is the encapsulated, and so I am that, and I have a high belief in the divine. Am I not touchable? I don't believe I'm somebody that can't be touched, but I have never had that issue. We all have depressed times, we all have happy times, and you will attract to you a spirit of like energy. If you're going through tremendous grief and you're angry at your boss and you got a car wreck, your vibration is really in a bad space. So if you're going to have attachment, it'll be somebody at that vibrational level. So I'm a little older than most of the audience, so my go-to is Laurel and Hardy, Bing Crosby, because they're so silly. Bing Crosby and Bob Hope movies. I have a few of them in here that I watch only because if you get into a space that's not comfortable, Laurel and Hardy, you got to laugh like it's a crazy laugh. And that will knock everybody off because they can't stay with you. And I'm just like everybody else. I can have days, health issues kind of put me down too. But that's my life. It's not anybody else's life. This is what I've chose to be this person to do this work for 33 years now. And they're going to have days that are tougher than other days. We're normal human beings. No one gets out of this alive. Nobody has a free ride or an easy ride. Just own that. You're here for the life experience of which you chose ahead of time. Or you chose a family dynamics. You were that person's father in a prior time. You're going to be the child now. There's so many situations.
Creme brulee.
So
Sorry about this.
who?
What I would suggest on that one is that you talk to the. There's always a main building in the cemetery where they have records of where everybody is buried, and generally you can get you can get that information from there. Or I mean, if you really want to deal with the paranormal, dowsing rods might help you find it. You know, you ask your great grandmother.
What are we talking about, Shar?
She says my great grandmother's head, a plate stone, has been buried, and I'm trying to find it during visits to uncover it from the weeds.
Oh.
Any tips? It's right next to my daughter's, but
absolutely.
I can't find the plaque yet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's trying to find the stone.
Usually they're buried under, when.
Yeah.
Well, it's very easy to mow the grass on the property, and then it piles up and disintegrates, and then all of a sudden everything has disappeared visually. So I talked about ghosts or pleasers. Children show up a lot, and I want to address. We were talking about how you want to be seen in the afterlife, and
did I lose you? Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh man, I clicked off. Sorry about that. Hang on, guys. I was moving stuff around and I clicked her off.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I was sending somebody a message. Went to the wrong screen. My bad. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So my answer to you, creme brulee, is yeah, you can try dowsing rods. It's all good. All right, go ahead, Nancy. I'm not touching nothing else. No more buttons. No.
Get your hands off of there. My great grandmother's heads plate. Okay, we talked about that. All right. Well, I want to go back to children show up a lot. So we were talking about we all have a story. We all have had illnesses. And so toward the end of your life, we get beat up and we think, okay, and if my great grandchildren want to see me, I'm going to show up as they remember me. But the other people in my life who think, oh, poor grandma, well, I want to show up looking healthy and alive so they know I'm okay. And a lot of times when you don't have that, we look at our life. I have a memory, I think I was 6 years old, maybe one of the few times before my father was killed, that I remember him. And I was sitting on the beach and he brought me some watercolors. I've had a lot of art in my life. And I remember him walking up and I was watercoloring the scenery. A moment. If when I become a spirit person, I want to go back and sit on that beach and become that child again and have my father walk up to me. And I think that we can do that. Or I remember being 10, 11, 12. I was very athletic, very tomboyish. And I loved my bicycle. And I loved the gyms of the park across the street, Arden Ridge Park, Shar, around the corner from you. Yeah. And there I would be a child again. If someone say, well, there's a child riding a bicycle. Well, as an old person, I went back to something that felt good. So I can be seen as a child. So adults will sometimes go back to a child age of their remembrances when they're really happy. And I've seen that a lot, especially with great illnesses, teenage years, before they got ill or had to go to military, or PTSD set in and they're not the person they used to be.
Mhm.
Um, so age is relevant to happiness. So if you go into, well, I'm trying to think of some shows. There's always shows. There's so many on TV doing investigations. Oh, there's a child here. Well, we don't know if it's a child. If you were in a mental
Mhm.
institution or in prison, they
Mhm.
could still be there, but they don't want to be that person. They want to be when they're happier. So they'll be a child a lot of times. Because when you start talking to them, they talk adult like. They're not a child. Um, and I kind of just going to mental institutions. I've done a lot of remotes for people doing that. Of course, I will do it. Why not? This is interesting to me. I'm going to hospitals. I get the heebie-jeebies going to hospitals. Absolutely. I can feel them. I choose not to look. I do not want to see spirit people in the hospital. I don't want to lock eyes with somebody like I did with the Quaker girl and go, uh-oh, locked eyes. There she was. I walked around about a half hour later, called Karen Rossine, and I went, do I have a little girl attached to me? And she says, yeah, you do. Let me. And I said, let me describe it. And that's when I did. And she goes, starts screaming. That's exactly what I'm seeing. So, I lock eyes with somebody, it's over. They can be right there in front of me. So hospitals are kind of scary for me. I'd always stay out as much as possible. How about a senior or take care like dementia? There are a lot of people there. If they had dementia and they died, and no one was there, if they were there, and
Mhm.
the process of grieving they didn't remember, it can take whiles. I have seen people walk. Yes, I can't help but see. So my husband was driving me around town here. Oh, this is Oroville. It's a darling town. We're right up against Aura Lake. There's a dam here. There's two big casinos. There's pathways, there's walkways. There's a lot of things here. Attracts a lot of tourism. And they have three cemeteries. And there's an Asian one, um, general public, and a Jewish one, I think it is. And so he's driving around, and I saw three spirit people standing there. And the one that locked eyes with me, and I don't think I brought him home, was uh, an Asian gentleman. And he must have had some money, or he was in the priesthood, and he had all these gowns on him. He was just standing there
Mhm.
looking around. And I thought, well, what in the world are you? Think to myself, I told her, I says, what's this guy doing here for so long? I think to my, or he was recently buried. I wouldn't know any different. And I thought to myself, I am not going to look at him. I'm not going to look at his face. I did see what he was wearing. I do not want to put myself in, have this guy walk around the house and saying, who or she? Is she lock eyes with me? I don't want to do that. I do feel that you can, I know it, right?
That's pretty
A
funny.
child's playground. Yes, a child's playground could be where someone played before. Now, I
Mhm.
was raised in the neighborhood a couple blocks over from Sharp where she lives now. And the park was Arden Ridge Park. It was very nice. I had roller skates, bicycles. I was outdoors all the time. My mother hardly ever, well, she didn't see me. And you can get adults playing in there. So when you pick up a child, ask them how old they are. Because if he says 72, then you know you got an adult.
Mhm.
Are you having fun here? Is this a place of recovery for you? A place to have happy memories? Do not assume it's a child first.
Mhm.
It usually isn't. That's very, very important. And I want to talk about something also interesting. Come on, anybody want to call in with questions on who's beside them?
Come on in the
Ghosts
chat
from
room.
flight.
Good.
Pardon
Yes,
me?
sir. Come on into the chat room. Tell us who you are and who you want to hear from. Go for it.
I was wondering about the rods. I found the
Oh,
plot, but the stone is flat. Rods. I'm
no,
not
that's
sure I know
fine.
what.
The rods. No, they're using dowsing rods to find the stone.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay,
Could be
that's
done.
what. Okay,
Could be done.
this is something I find very curious, and I would love to do this. Um, Shar and I mentioned a few weeks ago um, a ghost that showed up in a plane where a piece of Flight
Yeah.
401 had
Yep.
crashed.
Right.
And this, I actually have the book. I read it a long time ago. It was very fascinating to me. This is not the only time the pilot of the plane looked behind him and he saw a gentleman sitting in the first row of all the seating. And it was someone he recognized as the pilot of the ship Flight 401 who he died. He was killed in the plane crash. And they went and found out that the plane had been taken apart and all these pieces were put in other planes. So something like that would be very fascinating to me, like going to a museum. I lived in Tucson, Arizona for a while, and there's um, I don't know what Air Force, it has to be Air Force, but they have
Hmm.
a Air Force um, graveyard for all the planes that during different conflicts. It's huge, like 10 football fields. I mean, it's a huge area. I would think it'd be very interesting to take an EVPs there and find out what's going on, or go to a monuments or a museum with a lot of art pieces. I know who's there because artists may be with their works, or the subject, the one who posed for it, or like the flight 401. I'm trying to think.
You don't hear a lot of this,
Go ahead.
but Castle Air Force Base, that's a museum out here in
Where's
Central
that?
California. Castle Air Force Base.
Central California?
Yeah, they
Okay.
had a haunted B-29. You don't hear a lot about it anymore. When I was first starting out
I think
doing
that'd be
this,
fascinating.
it was all over, all over the paranormal. I don't think they
And-
let people in there anymore, to ghost hunt, is what I think. I think they
Oh,
kind of shoved it all down, to hide it all. But I remember a lot of groups
we
had
don't want to
gone
talk
in there,
about it, huh?
and there were reports of it. I know Gloria Young, again, who's no longer with us, took her team in there, and I know she had a full report up, which stated that they could see screwdrivers floating through the air. Within the guts of this B-29. I went out there with my team. I actually had somebody holler at me from across the field, who wasn't there. I was all alone walking
I would,
across the airfield.
there's a fine line between doing an investigation
Hmm.
and I did a remote view for an investigation of a hotel on East Coast. And
Hmm.
Bob called me up and he says, I don't want you to talk about getting rid of talking to these ghosts and get them off my property. This is how I make a living. If you ask them to
Hmm.
leave, they don't have to be here.
Right.
Then and I was
Exactly.
kind of like, I talked to Char later, and I remember that. And I
Yeah.
remember talking to you and thinking, well, why should they be there? So, and something like this, a museum or a graveyard for big
Hmm.
planes like this, or however, I'm
Hmm.
going to want to know why they're still there. But
Right.
yet, I will say that I have an uncle who worked at aerospace, not McClellan, off of 50.
Aerojet.
There was an Air Force base during Aerojet. And I have
Aerojet.
some,
Yeah.
my cousin Bob, whose father worked there, and it was very neat to see him working on the planes. And I can imagine the camaraderie and the um, brotherhood of a group of
Hmm.
men building a plane.
Hmm.
And to me, that'd be very cool.
Yes.
My work
Absolutely.
experience is in accounting and engineering, I don't have that camaraderie. But when you're used to your hands, you're building something people will fly in. And there's a picture of him in the cockpit with the upper level management looking down on my Uncle Bud, and he's showing them how he created the cockpit. They're talking about
Hmm.
it. To me, I think that what we would find is people in their heaven in that era working on these planes. It'd be fun just to find out.
Well,
Yet,
I would
unfortunately, it had
also
been shot
think,
down in pieces.
right. I would also think, like with this B-29, there's so much. What's the thing? One of the things that's part of a haunting. It depends on what type of haunting it is. You got the haunting that's driven emotionally
Yeah,
by things that happened, in that
yeah,
particular location. I would think the thing with the B-29 would be part of that. You would get the guys that are proud because they flew the thing. They want to show it off to people
yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah,
afterlife.
yeah.
But then you get all that emotional stuff because they were being
Right.
shot as they were flying over all these foreign lands. So I think that's part of it with that B-29 as well. But I would love to get back in there and
Yeah.
check it out. That we didn't get a lot on that plane at all. It was mostly on the grounds and inside the museum itself that we had evidence come up. But I was
One of
kind
these
of
days
disappointed.
when we're traveling, or yeah, but then I would be asking him, "What are you doing here? I mean, are you
Right?
in heaven? Is this your heaven?"
Yeah.
Because we create our world. I told you that my heaven will be
Uh-huh.
running or riding horses or something because that's what I loved to do when I was doing it. The other thing we're going to talk about here, and then we'll end the show if I don't get more calls, And this is tough because 9/11 really affected me. And I
Right.
was home, and a client from New York called me up, 3 hours difference. And he was yelling into the phone, "We've been attacked, we've been attacked." And I would probably discourage anybody from going to that site. I think that's the last place I would want to do EVPs. But yet, the Alamo, hmm, might be interesting if you get anything at all. Natural disasters, I would want to stay away from. I think
Right.
we would want to go to see if we can find the relatives, talk to them, calm them down. Absolutely, but you have to have the right mindset. There's a
The
difference between
thing,
someone like me
the
talk
thing
about
with
it
that
versus a
site in
novice.
New York, the thing with that
Which one?
911 site in New York,
Oh,
in
9/11.
New York,
Mm-hmm.
they built new stuff on there, and I have seen, and I don't see it all the time on the internet. You have to Google it. But
What?
once in a while, in my feeds, things come through where there's a lot of activity in those buildings that they have put on there, and I can understand why. But I'm just
Oh,
saying it
well, they
doesn't come
didn't
up
put
all the
in
time,
buildings there. They didn't put in buildings there.
or
They
whatever
put a
they put
museum.
there. But they say that whole area is
So
active.
the people who are there, the dead people, they're still seeing the building as it was.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah. And so it's really
Not their
active, and
heaven, but
so
their. I think people when they die suddenly like that, sometimes they get stuck in that the moments before, like they
right,
were going to the
right,
elevator. And
right,
if
exactly.
so, this is going to be hard for people to hear when they. I want to say something to this. So when I turned the TV on 9/11, 2001, um, the first building had been hit, but not the second one.
Mhm.
And when I was watching it, it's going to be hard because I don't get this out of order. Before it fell, I felt as it was the greatest amount of whoosh and then pull back.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I felt like I wanted to say things like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many spirit people rushing in to get their people out of there so they
Mhm.
wouldn't suffer
Mhm.
death."
Mhm.
And I felt a lot of that with that building. Now only 2,900 people died. I can't remember. Not like 50,000. I can't imagine
Mhm.
a big ship going down with so many people. The Titanic, how many people died? 14. I
Right.
mean, I can't remember. But big numbers like that, it's kind of really busy. And I don't know if we die so quickly like that, not in like a car accident. Do we stay frozen until we can wake up? I'm not saying
Mhm.
that happens because I've seen car accidents where you can see the spirit person, but you can't necessarily see the greeter because of the higher vibration. When we first
Right.
leave our body, we're thick. So I've seen pictures on the internet. The couple of famous ones. One is over in Asia Minor somewhere, and the kid is on a bicycle and he's got hit, and you see the form, a dark chalky color, standing above a bike, and the spirit people could be all around him, but they're so vibrationally so evolved. When we first leave our body, we're thick because we haven't evolved to where we have to have that thickness to hold the flesh
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
So it kind of makes me think they stay that way until they can. Oh, someone's waiting for me. Oh, who are you? Oh, how nice to see you again. And then all of a sudden you're awake, and then you go.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes
Mike,
people stick around a little bit.
in answer to
Oh,
your
what?
question, so ghosts are stuck in their era. Some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are. In fact, like to give you an idea of how stuck they can get, at this hotel in Grass Valley, we have the mother ghost is looking for her children. The problem is her children
Oh,
died in a different era, so they can't find each other. So, in some cases, it's like that. And then there are some cases where you might get a ghost like the one I had. I had a Roman centurion in my house, and the guy was hanging out watching TV and stuff. He wasn't stuck in his era. He was just stuck here. So
was that
it can go either way.
so that which way? Share with me and then tell them the lady you called me up and I saw a lady walking on the second floor, but you didn't have a second floor of the building. But when you told me later that what I was seeing was an elevated section of the bridge that she
Yes.
died and she didn't
Yeah.
see,
That was
and she was
Downeyville.
walking
Yes.
where I was
Yeah, that
Downeyville.
was
So this
Downeyville.
woman
Yeah.
died looking for her children
Yeah.
afterward. She stayed on that
Yes.
invisible platform that she was walking back and forth. And so she
Mhm.
was stuck in her own era looking for
Yeah.
her children. Was it a son she was
Yeah.
looking for? I can't remember
I
what
think
you
it was a
said.
son. Yeah. She was looking for her son. But that happens, but it's
For
not all the
some,
time, like I said, because I had a centurion, sure enough, the guy was watching TV and everything else, and he was curious about the TV, and I had a psychic friend of mine, trying to describe all this stuff to him. So they don't necessarily get stuck in their own era. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
that's interesting because the era I would want to go back to see my father would be in time. I would go
Mm-hmm.
back to when I was 6 years old and sit on the beach and watch me greet my father.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go back to that era, but it doesn't mean I'm stuck there. I would want to
Yeah.
visually see myself as that 6 year old. And we
I
do
would
that
like
all
to
the time.
think it's like that movie Made in Heaven where you can think about where you want to
Oh,
be and the time you want to be, and then
right.
you're there, and then you can move. You can bounce around in time. But I do understand people
So
getting
I have
stuck too. Go ahead.
absolutely. So a client of mine, and she's going to be a novella, a small book. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
her brother died, and he lived back east, and with living with him was his son. And so one day she says, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" And I didn't tell her I was going to talk about this tonight. It's just spontaneous. And I says, "Oh my gosh, he's in the Mediterranean. He's telling me he's Johnny Depp living with Pirates of the Caribbean."
Yeah.
And my client said, "What the fudge?" And I says, "I only tell you what I get. I mean, I have no emotion to it because I'm only reporting like a reporter, right?
Right.
I'm
Right.
getting what I'm getting." So she called the, got off the phone. She calls up the son and she says, "This is her brother's son." And the boy says, "Oh, Auntie, don't you know he loved Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp? And the basement is full of posters, and he was making a model of the pirate ship that he was on." So the next month, because she's my once a month lady, we talked about it, and he actually took me on board of the ship. And I talked about
Hmm.
this maybe a year ago on here. And he says, "This is where I'm living, and I don't particularly like it, but this is the ship." And he showed me the ship, and I was astonished how small it was lengthwise. It wasn't a big ship, and how the outside looked really black. And I went and told my husband, he watches the old movies. And he says, "Well, Nancy, they're all about," and I said, "They're almost the size of Nina Pina and the Santa Maria." He says, "Oh, of course, they were short and they had to be fast." And so what they did was they coated the outside of their ships, dock, and they'd go out with tar so they would
Mm-hmm.
float faster in the water. I didn't know that. So I got validation that the brother who died was showing me a legitimate ship. And I wouldn't know that it was so short. It was not even attractive. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like as fast as like a little Ferrari. You're going to not build a boat, make it fast. You're going to build something small, make it fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. I got validation of something I wasn't aware of. What really tapped into my brain, which makes me go nutsy over something like this, the next month we talk about it again. And we were talking, and I went, "Oh my gosh, I just remembered something." He said to me, "I don't like this life."
Mm-hmm.
Present tense, not past tense. So I put my mind to him again. I says, "Where are you?" And he says, "I'm doing this life." He showed me a man. He was half dressed, and they were out in the water, and he was cleaning the top of the floor of the ship, the deck. Deck, of course, it's a deck. And he said he didn't like this life, so he actually went back to experience a life. Now, in retrospect, that life came before he became John. You don't go back and steal a body. That body only had that one soul. He went back to a prior life that might have influenced him to like Johnny Depp, the Parrot, that movie
Mm-hmm.
series. He went back to that life, and I can see him now as I think about it. I don't know how I can do this, but I saw him on the ship, 35 to 40, big, bulky guy, the kind of guy that works hard by taking his shirt off, and there's hair on his shoulders. He's thick like this, and he's cleaning the top of the deck. Very unglamorous. And I think that the man was thinking it was Johnny Depp, uh, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean sighting, and it wasn't. So he was going back and doing remembrance. Clearly, he was not in this era. And that is not the only time that's happened. A lot of times. I did a past life regression for a couple of ladies, And it was fascinating because this is something that hadn't happened before. The lady that I was doing a past life regression, her partner came in and sat down. She says, "Okay," I said, "I don't care, just don't speak."
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the lady that we were past life regression, and I saw her as an Egyptian lady of wealth. I wasn't going to label her. I wouldn't know who she is. She could have been a lady of wealth to Cleopatra or any place in between. Who knows? But she was very finely dressed. Servants were everywhere, and she was ceremonially. It was a ceremony, and she was had a wreath of a lot of flowers, and she walked out on the pier and she put it in the water like in a ceremony. And I says, "Oh my gosh, look at this life!" And she was just out with a lot of conversation with me. "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can really feel like it was all that." And and in this lifetime, I can't remember what her question was. I'll have to go back and look at notes. She wasn't having very much success at advancing in her company, and she was a strong woman and very intelligent, which correlated to who she had been in Egypt or that part of the world. And it was kind of curious now why, right? And so I brought her back, and she was just thrilled that she had this life. But her
Mm-hmm.
partner was crying her eyes out. And I went, "What's going on?" She was just bawling her eyes out. And I says, "What's happening?" And she says, "I was sitting there trying to get your attention. I loved you so much. And you ignored me." And she turned out she was her slave. And she had loved this woman from afar and she couldn't get her attention. And she was just crying her eyes out. Well, this lifetime, they happened to go through women and they found each other. What's ironic is the successful Egyptian lady had failure in this life of advancement. Strong, independent just didn't work for her. Her mild partner worked right up the ladder of success. So the roles were reversed.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Wow.
Now, years and years later, I found out that they did move to Florida, but they did break up. It's almost like the one that found her success realized she had grown past the trauma of meeting this lady in her life, like the
Mm-hmm.
slave girl to the rich lady. I love that. The other one that was really fascinating was the past life regression for a lady whose husband was a police person. And if you're listening tonight, was Milan Court. You came there. I'm sure it was Milan Court. And it was the first time. It's almost like he didn't believe in this. And he went back with the wife to her past life. Come back and he goes, "Oh my gosh." I just love putting that hook in someone's mouth going, and it's amazing that people can go back and really experience a past life, even if you don't believe in it. Just amazing to me. Oh, fascinating. Michelle says, "That's fascinating about the pair that found each other, isn't it?" I mean, who could make these stories up? I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
writing a lot of these up, and I tell people, I am an artist. Yes, yes. I was in engineering. I do like to write, but some of these stories I tell, you can't make these stories up. You just can't. Who can make something like that up? Amazing to me. Amazing. Um, all right, young ladies, gentlemen. Okay, it's 7:50. Shari, you gotta.
Okay.
Oh, if you want to find me, my name,
Yes.
nancymatz.com, nancymatzauthor.com. And I do have my psychic, Nancy Metz Psychic on YouTube. And eventually, I thought I'd be setting us up sooner. I would like to talk about people's readings. And like I was sharing with you, a couple here, past life regression work. That's also very interesting to me, especially when it's the Old West. That's more recent history. All right,
Mm-hmm.
Shark. And
All right,
thumbs up,
guys.
everybody. Give me a thumbs up if you
Yeah.
liked it.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it. And of course, I'll be back on Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific to read from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Monday, Jay Wheatner is with us, and he has some interesting information about the John F. Kennedy assassination and the Zapruder film, and some information about the moon. So check that out, 6:30 p.m. Pacific on Monday. But meantime, have a great weekend, and if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies, because we are equal opportunity here. We're just trying to get the word out about our little show. But thank you very much for coming tonight, and I will see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific and or Monday with Jay Wiedner. Have a great evening, everybody.
Good night, everybody.